I just want to say one other thing while I'm here, because I think this is worth also repeating or saying. We were trying to get visitors out because obviously their vacation has changed drastically. They're in a location that doesn't have any power, doesn't have any water, and they're sleeping there. But that's probably better than some of the choices other people had, which was to not have anywhere to go. But we tried to get them to the airports so they could get on flights, they could get to Honolulu and make a choice to stay there or fly home or go to another island. We're not closing Maui. We're closing the west side of Maui. So there are people that can go to Wailea, the people that can go to Kihei, people that can stay with family in Wailuku. It's the folks that were that are in West Maui that we were concerned about. Plus, we were hoping we could use those hotel rooms for our residents who could be replaced, who could replace the space that our visitors were taking. So, I mean, that's the best I can guess, because I don't know why people stayed there, but I don't think it was for a lack of information.
And hopefully today, we will be able to release a large volume of pictures and video from this site. And so I want to share very openly, it will shock you how much damage the way things burn to just their base, cars, trucks, buildings. There's no way anyone could stay in that space or be in that space. The lines, all of the infrastructure, it's gone. So we'll share extensive photos, and that will help, I think, people understand fully the full scope of the disaster that the mayor and the police chief and the fire chief have had to deal with. Plus, of course, the evacuation of thousands of visitors to find space, either, like it was mentioned earlier, on planes or even to the convention center as was set up. But it's a profound change of landscape.
Mahalo, I'm going to take you right here.
Thank you. I'm Jill Cowan. I'm with the New York Times. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the evacuation orders. You mentioned, Mayor, mandatory evacuation orders. We've been hearing from residents that some on the west side were told late in, I guess, Tuesday afternoon to shelter in place. We've also heard that there was no emergency warning from early in the morning on that Tuesday to the afternoon. So I'm hoping somebody can kind of walk through in as much detail as possible when alerts went out, who they went to, what the thinking was to either tell people to shelter in place or to leave if they could, and yeah, just sort of what the thinking was, and if you do things a little differently now, or you know, just sort of what the timeline was. Because that's been a source, I think, of a little bit of confusion just in our reporting. We've been hearing different things from different folks.
I'm going to guess that the person you spoke to was a visitor.
We spoke to a lot of people.
No, I'm not talking. No, let me explain.
Yeah.
You spoke to a visitor if they were asked to shelter in place, because all of the hotels were asked to shelter in place. Now, did people want to stay there? No, they wanted to get out. They wanted to get out of Lahaina. And we asked them not to because we were trying to get emergency vehicles into Lahaina and not have this bottleneck. You couldn't get out, if you're familiar with Lahaina, you couldn't get out to go towards the Wailuku or go to the airport. That road was closed. There were 29 poles that fell on our roads. 29 of the power poles were down, and they were still energized. So you couldn't go out. So the only other way to go out, if you're familiar with Maui, is Kahakuloa, which is a one-lane highway in most places, which is why that was a bottleneck. So yes, people were asked to stay in their hotels and not leave. The residents were evacuated. Those were the folks that we took out of there. Now, I don't know if the alarm, I don't know if the alarms went off or if they were burnt. I can't tell you that because I wasn't in Lahaina. But I'm gonna just confirm that if you were at one of the hotels in Kaanapali, because the fires were not there, people were asked to stay there, but people still tried to get out. They didn't want to stay there. They weren't listening to what we were asking them to do. But I don't know about the alarms, how they went.
I'll just add,
Cell alerts, whatever the different modes were.
so our department is not responsible for that. So I'll just speak to what we're responsible for and what we're at. The fire that day moved so quickly that from where it started in the brush to where it moved into the neighborhood, communications back to those who make those notifications were physically and nearly impossible.
I'm
So,
sorry, which department?
Emergency
is it?
Management
Oh.
Agency is responsible for that. So because notifications are done localized cell phone towers and such, there could have been some of those that were out, like the cell phone service is out right now. But all I can tell you is what we experienced was such a fast-moving fire through the neighborhood that the initial neighborhood that caught fire, they were basically self-evacuating with fairly little notice. And then that's when we anticipate seeing most of our people. And then as we get further down to French Street, it was later in the day. Hopefully by then people were more evacuated and multiple notifications went out.
Thank you. I'm just going to remind everybody it's a very devastating time for Maui. Please be gentle with your lines of questions. We welcome them, but just be a little bit gentle. Everybody up here, I don't believe has slept in the last 48 hours. So we just appreciate your kindness. One last question, and then if you did not get your questions answered, you are free to reach out directly to me. We will follow up. Post this interview or this conference rather, with a news release with digital assets that you folks can use. I think you two, I already asked, gave you a time. Stand by. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Chivo Chin Johnson with Akaku, Maui Community Media. And I think any further lines of questioning would be sort of silly at this point, because I have seen a lot of this footage and a lot of these photographs, and we've been airing as much as we can information. And I just want to thank the county, the police department, the fire department, and everyone else that has been pitching in to help this effort out, because it is horrific. And my heart goes out to all of the people that have suffered way greater than anyone else. Thank you.
Chief, mahalo for that, but I just want to say we're going to do regular media updates every day at 9 a.m., at noon, and at 3 p.m. We're going to try to use this room unless it's unavailable, in which case we will have to find another location.
Actually, it's radio.
Oh, those would be the radios? Okay, sorry. We're going to update you on radio at those times, 9 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m. Okay, I missed the radio part.
The video, just out of curiosity.
Say that again?
I said, is there a reason we can't do it video? There's a lot of people that don't get the radio that are in tune with Maui.
I will tell you that what Mayor's talking about is a way to communicate to the public as well, for those who do not have internet and video access. So 9 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m. on every AM and FM radio station on Maui Island will be public information. Video, we will fit in. It will probably not be 3 times a day for video though.
So there'll be no questions allowed?
The public is asking us to provide as much updates and information as possible. We are working to support their needs.
Let me add to that to also satisfy. So, first of all, mahalo for your attention on this crisis. Like I said earlier, it's the largest natural disaster that our state has seen. That's becoming evident quite quickly. We will be holding routine press conferences at the state level, and at the right times we'll introduce the right people, which is usually going to be several people at the press conferences. We're going to try to unburden to the greatest extent possible the mayor, chief of police, and the fire chief as they do their job in this acute phase. But of course they always answer questions too. We will be compiling a lot of information and sharing it. There will be chances for all of you to ask questions. We'll be doing it with FEMA support, with, in many cases, General Hara's leadership. We have our team assembled statewide, which is not unlike the way we approached COVID, which was to share a lot of information. It's just in these first 48 hours, the amount of damage has necessitated a conservative approach, because we really don't want those individuals that are in shelters right now to lose all hope. And that's where we are today. But there will be lots of opportunities. My team will be back here in support of the mayor very frequently, but we'll also hold a lot of press availability on Oahu, and we'll Zoom people in from the neighbor islands. I think that's fair to say. Okay. But we appreciate you. We also want to send the message before I go to the mainland and to the world. Please support the people of Maui. There are ways to do it. The Hawaii Community Foundation, for example, has set up a fund. I believe it's called Maui Strong. It's also going through the United Way, the Maui United Way. Millions of dollars have already poured in, but as you can tell, thousands of individuals are going to have great need here in the county, and that's going to go directly to those people. So thank you to everyone for doing what you can, and if you're a local resident, find a way to take someone in from Maui, if at all possible, because this rebuild is going to be extraordinary, but it's going to take time. So thank you all for today.
Mahina. Just as you folks are sort of breaking down, as a quick side, so this is not, I'm not the news conference, you don't have to film me. This is a sidebar as you guys break down, a gentle reminder. Those of you that are on island, please know this is Mahina. Please treat her with dignity and respect. She's been working very hard. This is Director of Communications for Maui County. Please note that there are no media in shelters. Okay, so we're highly encouraging you folks to work directly with Mahina and her team as part of Mayor Bisson. Please show aloha and respect to the families